extremely delighted and pleased to act as the academic advisor of Ahmed, graduate or PhD candidate on his study entitled Textual Cohesion in English and Urban. Ahmed al-Bakrī graduated from the Department of English, College of Arts and Humanities, University of صنعاء, some 10 years ago. I have had the opportunity and the privilege to teach him at the undergraduate level and to supervise him at the PhD level. Ahmed al-Bakrī has consistently demonstrated a very high level of dedication to academic pursuits, perseverance in the attainment of goals that he set forward in front of him. It is because of his performance indicators I have agreed to act also as his PhD advisor. We have members of the Vice Committee, Professor Ahmed, an associate professor of English, with particular focus on comparative literature. We also do have undergraduate studies, graduated from the Department of English with a BA degree some years ago. I did have also the opportunity and the privilege to teach Ahmed at so many different levels. She has always also demonstrated a very high level of dedication, perseverance, and mental performance. She was recently promoted to the post of associate professor based on the quality of her scholarly research. She is currently contributing in services and value to the advancement of our teaching program in the Department of English from the Department of Humanity, and I'm sure that she is going to make a difference as far as our quality program is concerned. Next to me on the right-hand side is Dr. She is also making headlines in contributing in services and value in the teaching program at the University of Leiden. She was a former student of mine, so it's got the whole Bible community, the former students of mine. I supervise her at the PhD level, and I'm sure that she's going to contribute greatly to creating a Bible that can only be described as an exercise in intellectual pursuits with regard to the subject areas and themes that Ahmed may have attempted to address. There are also guidelines I want to share with the audience. I want each and every one of you to switch off his phone before we start the Bible in Christendom. And I would appreciate the fact that each and every one of you should follow attentively the discussion so we can make the maximum out of this exercise in intellectual esteem of ideas. Please do not disrupt the procedure. Please be seated. Please be seated. I'm going to cancel this whole exercise. Wallahi, I'm going to cancel it. I want you to be seated. I will cancel the event. Simple and straightforward. Is that clear? I want you to be seated, and I don't want you to waste your time on insignificant issues. This is the highest academic and formal degree to be granted to a candidate. And you need to appreciate the fact that and to follow the discussion attentively. I'm not inviting you to a cocktail party.
وجعل المترجمات مغلوب الدكتور يقول سينهي الجلسة إذا لم يسمع حلول وجعل أغلب المترجمات مغلوب.
Otherwise I'll cancel it. إن لم تلتزم القاعدة الهدوء سألقي هذه الفعالية. emphasize it, don't test by resolution. Don't test by resolution. I'll cancel it. Now I request our candidate, Ahmad al-Bakrī, to give us a brief but precise presentation of the issues, themes that might have motivated you to consider this particular subject matter. The more you improvise, the better off you are likely to convince the audience. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir, for this chance. Well, we all know that the researcher is the only person who is responsible for his research or any shortcomings or deficiencies in his research. But at the same time, he is not the only person who has made his research pursuit come to a successful conclusion. There are always some people who have contributed directly or indirectly to such a conclusion. So I think it is incumbent on the researcher to express gratitude and gratefulness to those people. So first of all, allow me, dear audience, to express my gratitude to Professor Abdulrahman for his boundless support, not only for me, but also for all my PhD classmates throughout 3 years. Because of the situation that you know, we faced some problems in the very year of PhD program. I was Professor Abdulrahman intervened and helped us out. I can't actually words fail me to express my true feelings towards him. Also, I thank him for his approval to take over the supervision of this thesis, particularly after my former supervisor, Professor Mahmoud, had to leave the country. I also would like to express my gratitude to Professor Raya for her approval to be the internal examiner. Also, special thanks to Professor Bassel for approval to be the external examiner, and also for her taking the trouble to come from India, particularly these days. I also like to express my special thanks to my parents, my brothers, and my cousins, particularly Dr. Sami and Dr. Ahmed for their moral and financial support all throughout the 3 years of my research. And the last but not least, I'd like to thank my wife for her patience and my being busy with the books throughout my research. And I'd like to tell her this: you have been and will always be the most beautiful and beloved rose in the garden of my life. And with this, I would like to start giving an outline of my thesis. I try to be brief. So as you can see here, audience, the title is Textual Cohesion in English and Arabic, comparative analysis of lexico-grammatical research devices. Let's start with the objectives. As you know, there is always a broad objective and specific objectives. So the broad objective of this study is to make a comparative contrasted study between Arabic and English in terms of textual cohesion. And the purpose here is called three lexico-grammatical devices of cohesion. These are conjunction between sentences, or voice, and lexis. And under this, we come to the specific objectives. As you can see, the first one is to carry out a quantitative and qualitative analysis of the selected lexico-grammatical devices used to create intra- and inter-sentence cohesion, and to identify any differences that are of significance and may be potential causes behind the Arabic university students' inability to produce coherent text in English. Also, the study is intended to suggest pedagogical applications and remedial measures that may hopefully mitigate incoherence in Arabic university students' level compositions. And finally, to find out whether there are any new devices that have not been observed so far by any study before. The rationale behind this study is that a number of studies have shown that a number of studies have shown that the cohesive devices are extremely important for inefficient interpretation and comprehension of any text. And any failure to interpret cohesive devices means a failure to understand the text. But at the same time, a number of studies have shown that learners of English all over the world fail to produce coherent and cohesive text in English. And of course, our learners of English are not exception. As teachers, we can see that a lot of our students, they can write very beautiful sentences, but when they are asked to write paragraphs or essays, they fail to produce coherent text in English. This is one of the most important reasons why I embarked on this study. Also, a cursory glance at many studies on textual cohesion in Arabic can tell us that there is a great confusion among our researchers about the two notions of cohesion and coherence. There are many researchers who talk about cohesive devices in our text, and you find that they talk about lexical items, pronouns, synonyms, antonyms, etc. But at the same time, out of a sudden, they talk about speech acts. I think speech acts should not be under cohesion. Speech acts are related to the pragmatics of discourse. The interpretation of speech acts relies on the listeners and the reader's competence. But we know that cohesion is related to the connectivity between formal devices in the text itself, whereas coherence is the logical and perceptual relationship between sentences that the reader or listener can establish. Another reason is the inconsistency in the categorization of cohesive devices in Arabic. There are a lot of researchers that have read some studies on textual cohesion in Arabic, and I found that many other researchers talk about pronouns insight to this study is that I've noticed that there are some sweeping claims leveled against Arabic, such as the following. As you can see here, you have the Arabic. They say they carry these conclusions, and I consider these conclusions as sweeping generalizations. Actually, like Arabic uses a much higher proportion of connectives than English. Arabic uses a much higher proportion of lexical repetitions than English. And Arabic uses a much higher proportion of recitals than English. Well, I think these conclusions project Arabic as more repetitive, more redundant, and less economical than English. And I think this is wrong. This is not absolutely or totally correct. We know Arabic is well known for its brevity. And I say that they are sweeping claims because some of these conclusions are based on the analysis of very short text in Arabic and English. For example, Munabeka compared Arabic and English in terms of pronouns, and she used just an extract of a legal contract. And she came up with the conclusion that Arabic uses more pronouns than English. Then she wanted to compare and contrast Arabic and English in terms of lexical cohesion, and she used different two texts. And then she came up with the conclusion that Arabic uses much repetitions, or a lot of repetitions, more than English. Well, I think Munabeka should have used the same two texts to compare English and Arabic in terms of pronouns as in terms of lexical cohesion. Maybe if she compared English and Arabic in terms of pronouns in that text, then at the same time she used the same two texts to compare Arabic and English in terms of lexical items, she would have seen that if Arabic uses a higher number of pronouns, then in that text English would use a higher number of repetitions. Or vice versa. Well, she shouldn't have used two different texts and then two different texts to talk about another cohesive device. Also, some studies, when they compare English and Arabic in terms of the frequency of cohesive devices, they use the method which I consider, which is in my project, of course, scientifically not satisfactory. The method is this: they counted the number of cohesive devices, then they multiplied the number by 100, and then they divided the result by the total number of cohesive devices in a text. Well, I think this method is not satisfactory, is not sufficient, because we know that Arabic and English have totally different writing systems. And in many texts, we find that even if we have an Arabic text and it's English translation, if we count the total number of words in that text, we would find that in the Arabic text, the total number is going to be much lower, which means the proportions would not be the same if we divided the total number of cohesive devices by the total number of total numbers of words in that text. To make myself clear, just think of this very simple sentence. If we say, هذا كتاب, هذا كتاب, 2 words in Arabic, but render it into English and you are going to find this is my book, 4 words. So that's what I mean. In Arabic, the reason why we have more words in English is that
In English, pronouns, conjunctions, prepositions are often attached to they are often prefix or suffix in Arabic. They are prefix or suffix to the content words. But in English, articles, conjunctions, prepositions, and pronouns, they are written separately and they are counted as separate words. So the number or total number of words in the text in English and its comparable Arabic text will not be the same. And that's going to lead to distorted result or quantitative results. That's why I'm saying these are swimming or not sufficient method. When we come to the significance of the study, the significance of the study stems from the fact that it uses a variety of texts. I've tried to investigate a larger number of texts and different texts, and selected them, of course, randomly. And when we come to the text of the method of the study, I'm going to point to those texts that we have used here. Also, unlike other studies or the previous studies, this study adopts a qualitative approach to the analysis of cohesive devices. And I think this is the appropriate, or at least I say more appropriate approach than the quantitative approach. Because it's what we need to know, not the numbers, not quantity, but quality. When we understand how to use cohesive devices in English, it's better to know that English uses higher or lower number of pronouns or lexical items than Arabic. That's I think it is of no use when it comes to teaching English to our students. The study is also, the significance of the study stems from the fact that it tries to draw our researchers' attention to the distinction between the two notions, cohesion and coherence. As I told you earlier, there is a great confusion between among our researchers. They don't distinguish between cohesion and coherence. And also the study tries to provide a number of pedagogical implications and remedial measures for enhancing our university skills in writing, reading, and translation in English. Also, the study tried, and of course my humble experience as a teacher in the Department of English, Faculty of Arts, I've noticed that our students need to improve, to enhance their proficiency in English. So the study, on the basis, of course, of the findings, the study will try to suggest some measures to improve our curriculum at the department. Now we come to the methodology. The methodology that the study uses, as I told you, I have used a quite lengthy text, wider variety that can help me to reach a more inclusive findings. And I've used 10 texts, 5 in English and 5 in Arabic. These texts are legal contracts in Arabic and its English translation, legal contract in English and its Arabic translation, and argumentative text in Arabic and its English translation, and argumentative text in English and its Arabic translation, and an editorial in English and its Arabic translation. To ensure accuracy of analysis, I've taken 3 measures. The first one is that I've used original text and their translations. I think this is a good method to compare and contrast two languages, particularly two different languages like Arabic and English. Why this is a good way? Because using an original text and its translation is going to ensure that we have the same size of text as well as the same topic and ideas. Because we know that changing the topics means or may lead to different cohesive devices. But when we have the same topic, the same length of the text, this is going to render your text common. That's why I have to use original text in the translation. Then, the unit of analysis. This was one of the most difficult or problematic parts in the research. Why? The reason is that the orthographical sentence is generally taken to be the unit of analysis. And when we analyze text in English, they use the orthographical sentence as the unit of analysis. But now we are comparing Arabic and English. We know that it is very, very difficult to define the boundaries of orthographical sentences in Arabic text. Actually, Arabic does not pay attention to punctuation marks, periods, something like that. And we find them generally idiosyncratic rather than something textual. In English, we know that the sentence starts with capitalization and ends with question mark, means period. But in Arabic, that is not applicable. We can find, for example, a main clause and the subordinate clause in Arabic, and they are separated by a semicolon. Or we can find a parenthetical expression in Arabic, and it is separated from the rest of the sentence by dots, by a period at the beginning of the parenthetical expression and a period at the end of the parenthetical expression. So, to use orthographical sentences as the units of analysis would not work. For this reason, I have selected another method, and this is any clause that is conjunctively related to the preceding or succeeding discourse. And I think it is workable in terms of Arabic as well as in terms of English text. Then the third method is, or the third measure is, the use of reticular. Of course, we don't have time. I don't have time on my hands to explain and show you pictures of the reticular. But this measure or reticulum can help us to count the number of cohesive devices precisely. They can show us also, they can give us a visual displays of the relationship, the cohesive devices established in the text. So for each text, there are three reticulum. One reticulum displays the conjunctive relationship between sentences or clauses, or let's say the units of analysis, because we are no longer talking about clauses or orthographical sentences. The unit of analysis can be one clause or more than one clause. The clause must be conjunctively related to the preceding or succeeding discourse. That's the significant thing. That means there are some clauses which are not conjunctively related to the preceding or succeeding discourse, like the relative clause. Relative clause is not conjunctively related to the preceding text. So we have three reticulum for each text. As I said, the first reticulum shows the conjunctive relationship between sentences or units of analysis, and the second reticulum shows the co-reference chain in the text, and the third one shows the lexical ties established between lexical items in that text. I think these measures help me a lot to produce a more accurate analysis. Now, of course, we know that there is no research that is an island by itself. Every research has its own limits. So, the case is here. I mean, my study is no subject. So this, one of the limitations of this study is that it focuses only on 3 lexical items, or lexico-grammatical cohesion devices, and these are connectors, co-reference items, and lexical items. There are still 2 important cohesion devices, which are ellipses and substitution. I didn't include these 2 items because of the second limitation of my study. This is the fact that the study is using written discourse rather than spoken discourse. Spoken discourse is excluded in this study, and I think ellipses and substitutions are more common in spoken discourse rather than in written discourse, and that's why I excluded them in this study. Also, this study didn't take into account the devices of structural cohesion. We know that parallelism can play a very important role in establishing relationship, cohesion and coherent relationship between textual elements. But this study excludes these devices. Now we come to some of the, I'll just give you some of the most important findings of the study. The findings are divided into 2 types, quantitative findings and qualitative findings. The quantitative findings are these. Both languages rely more heavily on lexical items to create cohesion than on other cohesive devices. That is, lexical items make up or account for the highest proportion in the text that are analyzed. But of course, this is in comparison to the co-reference items and the connectors. Also, both Arabic and English use more or less the same number of lexical cohesive items. It is not true, at least in the samples that are used, it is not true that Arabic use a much higher number of lexical repetitions or lexical items than does English. Also, Arabic displays a much higher number of explicit. Here is a difference. And this finding is in sympathy with the previous findings. In that, I found out that Arabic displays a much higher number of explicit connectives than English. But we should bear in mind that, and I think this is because of the much higher frequency of the use of the connective one. The connective one is always there at the beginning of a clause, at the beginning of a sentence, and even at the beginning of a paragraph. And I think if we exclude one from the statistics, we will find that Arabic and English have more or less the same number of explicit connectives. But anyway, let's say that we can't exclude one. It is a conjunction and it is there. So I would say that fine, Arabic and English, there's a difference between Arabic and English in terms of using explicit connectives. Then, a more delicate about the coherence, co-reference items, actually I've noticed that, of course, Arabic seems to use or to rely on a much higher, or not much, but a slightly higher number of co-reference items. But sometimes when we compare a text in English and its comparable English text, I found that some of the texts in English have or display a higher number of pronouns than does the Arabic text, which means maybe this is because of the type of the text. So text types may influence the use of the number of pronouns or lexical items used. It's not because of that it is language specific, but because of text types. Now we come to the more important, I consider the more important findings, and these are the qualitative findings. These findings are, well, at the global level of discourse, both languages use internal connectives as discourse organizing devices. This means, or by this I mean that both Arabic and English use internal connectives to connect between paragraphs, or between two paragraphs, or even between, I said, 3 paragraphs at the beginning of the text and 3 paragraphs at the end of the text, or I said 3 preceding paragraphs and 3 succeeding paragraphs. That's what I mean by discourse organizing devices. They organize the chunks of discourse. Also, but at the local level of discourse, and this means between adjacent clauses and adjacent sentences. I found that, yes, Arabic prefers to use explicit connectives, whereas English does implicit connectives. That is, Arabic prefers to keep conjunctive relationships implicit. When we come to co-reference, I found that English text display a different pattern of co-reference. In English, I've noticed that the pattern of co-reference varies from anaphoric to cataphoric, whereas in Arabic, it's more often anaphoric rather than cataphoric. That doesn't mean we can't find a cataphoric reference or co-reference in Arabic, but that's a question of preference. Then there is a very significant and very important finding related to the use or usage of demonstrative directives. I found that in English, the usage of demonstratives is highly sensitive to the pragmatics of discourse. And you find that, for example, you find that all the native speakers or writers of English will use that, also this is just an example, will use that to refer to an event that took place in the past. They would never use this. Like an example, in one of the texts it says, that campaign was great. Why that, not this campaign? Because the author is referring to something happened in the past. Whereas in Arabic, I didn't find this kind of pragmatic, requirement. In Arabic, I find native speakers of Arabic, some of them use this, some of them use that to refer to an event that took place in the past. Which means, and I came with this conclusion that in English, the usage of demonstrative is sensitive to the pragmatics of discourse, whereas the usage of demonstrative in Arabic is idiosyncratic. That is, different speakers can use different demonstrative items, like hada and dal. We find in Arabic or in text in Arabic, some speakers say هذه الحملة, هذه الانتخابات, whereas he's talking about what intikhabat happened in the past. In English they would use that, not this. But in Arabic, some speakers use hada, some speakers use that. And it doesn't mean that Arabic doesn't use that to refer to the past. But that's what I found in the text. So we are talking about descriptive analysis, not prescriptive analysis. I'm not in a position to say this one is correct and that one is wrong, but I'm saying that is what I have found in the text. But that is also
suggest that you could practical.
okay. Well, pedagogical implications. I think it's very important that our students be exposed to the fact that English uses explicit connections, uses implicit connections rather than explicit connections between sentences. I've teach writing books to our students in the department. I've never found a single exercise or a single drill that trains our students to use sentences without using a conjunction or conjunctive. All the books are focusing on teaching our students how to connect sentences by using conjunctive and conjunctive. So our students will graduate with the idea that we have to use and, but however, to use sentences to link the sentences in English. But this is a mistaken idea. This is not true. Also, there is something very important, which is the use of this and that and it. Our students should be exposed to the fact that, unlike in Arabic, in English, the demonstrated this and that are highly sensitive to the pragmatics of discourse. So our students should be trained when to use this or when to use that. Also, I think even our graduates, if you ask our graduates of level 4 students, what do we mean by thematic progression, they may say, we don't know. We have no idea. And so we need to expose our students to the fact that the pattern of thematic progression in English text is very important to create cohesion and coherence in that text. And this, we can expose them to this fact by using, if we do these two suggestions. I suggest that to help our students know something about these findings, about the use of demonstration in English, about the patterns of thematic progression in English, I think we should teach our students functional grammar and discourse analysis. These two courses are very important because they talk about the relationship between sentences, and they talk about the relationship. They can show our students how we can initiate a sentence in English by a subordinate clause or by a coordinate clause. Our students, if you ask them, because I'm here, I'm happy. I'm happy because I'm here. The majority of our students will say, this sentence is the same. There is no difference between the two structures. Maybe in content, yes, but when we use it in discourse, when we use it in a paragraph or in an essay, we have to be selective. We can't just use any of the two structures. We have to select the structure that is the sentence that is initiated by the subordinate clause or the sentence that is initiated by the coordinate clause, and this is according to some requirements imposed by the discourse itself. I think a functional grammar can be taught to the sophomores. Sophomores, it means the level 2 students. Instead of teaching our students 4 courses on traditional grammar, I think 2 courses for traditional grammar will be enough. And these 2 courses can be taught in level 1. But in level 2, I think we should replace the traditional grammar with functional grammar in 2 courses. Discourse analysis also can be used in level 2, in the second term in level 2. And it can replace writing form. I think if we taught our students 4 courses on writing, it would be enough. And instead of teaching them writing form, we can teach them discourse analysis. And of course, how can we select the teaching material? Well, as I suggested in the thesis, some 2 or 3 seniors of the teaching staff in our department can be appointed, and they can find the most appropriate approaches to discourse and make up or create their own teaching material. I think I'll come to the, as Professor Ahmed said, recommendations for prospective research. This is the last point, and I think about the pragmatic uses of demonstrative dialectics in Arabic. We need, first of all, to understand our language before we compare it to English. So, demonstrative dialectics, I've never found a book in Arabic talking about the pragmatic uses of demonstrative in Arabic. Then we need a thorough investigation of thematic progression in Arabic also. Also, I found only 2 studies talking about the thematic progression in Arabic, but they didn't convince me because they used different methods that even I couldn't understand actually. They are not even consistent in their analysis. So I think more research is required on this idea. I think with this we come to the end of the outline of my thesis. Thank you for
Ahmed, you have managed to rest your case, and a number of thought provoking issues are part and parcel of the presentation, and I would definitely ask private community members to follow on these issues, which are likely to further enhance the value and the quality of your research. We all understand the importance of text and response analysis to communication. To, first of all, to source text understanding, source text comprehension, without which no communicative act of communication could ever be executed. And Ahmed addressed a number of issues of paramount significance to the sustainable development of discourses in such a way that will allow for meaningful communication between among people of the same community or different linguistic backgrounds. There are so many implications for the ideas and thoughts that I attempted to highlight that could be of greater ramifications to translation theory and translating practice. And I would definitely expect from my colleagues to build up on what you have presented in order to further enhance the value of this intellectual exchange of ideas. I want to turn the floor now to my colleague, Abdulrahman, to pursue issues that are likely to further improve the quality of this wonderful piece of research.
Thank you, Professor Abdulrahman. I'm greatly honored to be in this committee because you have always proved to be a great source of inspiration, and you have always proved to be an excellent role model, not only to your students but also to your colleagues. So thank you very much for having me in this committee. I'd like also to thank Ahmed for choosing this topic, which is quite challenging and inviting all kinds of questions and inquiries, not only in terms of the kind of objectives that you are undertaking here, but also concerning the kinds of references, the kinds of format, the kinds of arrangements that you have done in this research. The moment that you submitted this research to me, I said to myself, well, this needs actually 2 volumes, not only 1. It's a huge work. It is challenging, and I really appreciate your courage to undertake such a topic. It's not easy at all. So I appreciate your efforts. I'm going to move step by step. Because, whenever we come across such serious works of research researchers, we need to be very careful concerning the content and the format at the same time. So we're going to take everything here according to my careful reading. After reading why, when we come to that part, that maybe change more. In your abstract, could you please open that page, abstract, second paragraph. You see the last sentence, starting with, the study is also intended, has you found that? Page 3, Roman numerals, page 3, abstract. From this, the English version of the abstract, not the Arabic, because you are including here two versions, one is English and the other is Arabic. So I'm asking here about the English version of the abstract. The sentence which says, the study is also intended to suggest some. Have you found that? Second paragraph, last sentence of the second paragraph. Sentence starting with, the study is also intended. Found it? Good. So, could you please read that sentence?
The study is also intended to suggest some pedagogical interpretations and remedial measures for improving our universal students' writing, reading, and translating skills.
Yeah, okay. Management here has to do with this part of the sentence which says that you have to improve Arab university students. Wow, this is a very large ambition. Because not all Arab students have the same linguistic problems. So, how can you assume that all Arab university students have the same kind of linguistic problems?
There are some studies that talk about these problems, that is not, can't say that it's only German students, it's all over the world.
They're not included here. They're just assuming that everyone who reads this research knows this fact. Well, we don't know. So everything you suggest must be documented. You're not documenting this fact. So maybe I will not agree with you. Maybe Jordanian university students will not say this. Will say that, no, we don't have the same problems, we have some other kinds of problems. So how can this researcher assume that we share the English students the same kind of linguistic problems?
Well, in the introduction, I've said that like college, land, they talk about these problems all over the world.
Yeah, but not documented. This is my point.
That's the point. Ahmed. Normally scholars are likely to refrain from making flat statements that cannot be substantiated. So whatever statement that you make should be got over generalization. Is neither professional nor pedagogical in nature.
Okay, thank you. ملخص البحث. This is page 5 in Roman numerals. Count 1, 2, 3, 4. The fourth line from the top. الأسباب الثامنة وراء عدم مقدرة طلاب العرب عامة واليابانيون خاصة. Is this a hypothesis or a database investigation? The same kind of question that I posed in the previous page. How did you know? Are there statistics? Did you do your own questionnaire? I don't find any kind of questionnaire here.
That's not necessary, but well, our experience tells us that we are teachers.
What proves that you have such a kind of experience? Must be a kind of questionnaire, because you are depending here on a data, which forms a basic part of your research. This is not included. The next page, okay, following page, the last line which says إذ تتجلى تلك الفوارق بشكل واضح في الجانب النوعي وليس الجانب الكمي. What does this mean? You did not answer this question in your presentation. What does it mean to have this kind of differences?
The quantitative analysis has shown that Arabic and English have almost the same text-comprehensive devices, the same connectors.
You said that, but you
But when we
can't
talk
say
about quantitative findings, we find a wide gap between Arabic and English, for example, in the use of demonstrators, in the use of thematic progression. These are the qualitative findings. There is a difference
Yeah, of
between
course,
Arabic
you
and
are stating facts. You are stating facts. This is something wonderful. But do you think that would be adequate for serious researchers to convince them in your research? Well, this is something beautiful. You have depended on a very sophisticated and scientific method to find out the differences between this language and that language. Maybe, future researchers, you might answer the question of why. Okay? Page one, this is chapter 1. The second paragraph, starting with a sentence, despite this significant, have you found that? Okay. Despite the significant role of cohesive means, Arab learners of English as a foreign government. Which level of learners are you targeting here? Arab learners. Overgeneralization. Which level?
learners in
All
general.
university students or particular level?
Actually, learners in general and university students in particular.
Yeah, you should mention this factor.
No, the most important thing is that this statement is attributed to Robert Kaplan rather than you. It should be made reference to the quotation. Because you should not accept the consequences of this particular statement. Personally, Robert Kaplan did incredible work on comparative empirical studies. And he has become a friend of reference in this particular area. And the statement is primarily attributed to Robert Kaplan rather than to الباكري.
So this is the issue of documentation. It's something very vital in any academic research. Now let's go to page 4, please. Part 103, statement of the problem. Found it? Now in this paragraph, sometimes you focus on reading skills, other times you focus on writing skills. So what kind of skill are you focusing here? This is not clear in this.
Well, I think reading skills, writing skills, they go side by side. If we know the techniques used by writers, we can read well. If we can read well, that means we know the techniques of writing. So, writing skills and reading skills go side by side.
But there is an incredible body of research to confirm the fact that good readers tend to be automatically professional writers. And this is confirmed by research that has been contributed in substance and value by the educational tests and services, which is primarily responsible for the preparation and execution of the topic examination.
You see, Ahmed, in your presentation, you decided that speaking skills are excluded from this research, right? Or here you are referring to that as part of your research. So I find here a kind of contradiction between your presentation and what I find here. Speaking skills, spoken discourses. You mentioned in your presentation that such spoken discourses are excluded from the research. Now, I find here in this paragraph that well-spoken discourses are included in your investigation as part of your research. So,
No, I think what the discuss is suggested that if we know that we can use this, that in our writing, it is going to influence our speaking.
it shows me that you're going to include discourses as part of your analysis.
Let me have a comment here, because you have made clear demarcation. You try to establish clear demarcation line between spoken and written English. Now, we all know that language can be defined only as an arbitrary system of vocal sounds. So the spoken form is essentially language. That writing is not language. Writing is a symbolic representation of speech. And And so it will be extremely difficult to actually draw clear demarcation lines between the spoken form of language and the written formats of language, because that will simply contradict how language is being used in so many different social and cultural contexts.
Okay. Page 6. At the top of the page. Read the first 4 lines, please. Page 6. Yeah. Read the first 4 lines.
4.
Yeah. Starting with more possible coincidence.
Can be the fact that our students are taught English by means of the
Yeah, thank you, sir. The question is, don't you think that this issue that you're tackling here is strongly related to the questions of stylistics and teaching of literature? You're talking here about texts, the kind of texts that are chosen for students to learn English. So, don't you think that it is strongly related to literature, to stylistics, to such matters? You never mentioned anything about, or you did not suggest the kind of text. Observe, the title is textual. So what kind of text do you suggest? You did not suggest any
I
kind
think
of
when we compare two languages, when you compare two languages in terms of textual provisions, I think we should choose text randomly. We are not going to focus on particular text type.
Yeah, not particular, but at least the kind of text, the types of text. Because what I found through your investigation and through your analysis that you're talking about a kind of network in the text, network. So this network has a kind of characteristic. What kind of characteristic that might help the student to find out the kind of cohesive devices that they must use in this situation or that situation? I expected to suggest that the center suggests a kind of text that might help the students to make their own understanding of the kind of cohesive devices.
Well, Ahmed, you could have responded by simply making reference to the fact that you are active on 25 different texts, focusing primarily on legal discourses. And you have attempted, in fact, to present authentic texts in English and Arabic, which are primarily addressing legal issues. And based on that type of analysis, you have jumped to certain conclusions. The fact that the conclusions seems to be extremely valid with regard to the corpus data that you have used. So the point that Ravi is trying to concentrate on, you're making over generalizations which may adversely affect the quality of your recommendations.
Thank you. Page 9. You're quoting here some divine verses, okay, from the Quran. So translation of the holy verses. Actually, they vary from one translation to another. Have you taken that issue into consideration?
Well, I think I mentioned that I will take the translations by hand.
What made you choose this translation?
Well, that's the only source I have available.
It's a very useful answer. Now, let's go to page 10. I want to comment on your use of the word wrongly. Wrongly. Have you found that? Al-Faqih, page 10. The paragraph that starts with Al-Faqih wrongly declares that the two verses are wrong. Well, I don't think that this is a kind of lapse. I don't think that this is inadvertent. This choice of word, quite deliberate. Why? Because you repeated the same word on both pages. Page 12 and page 50. So we are using the word wrong on page 10. You use the word wrong go to the Holy Quran. This is the issue. This is the issue. Actually, this one. It reminds me of a situation that happened between me and one of my students. This student is fond of reading, and one day she came to me very happy, carrying one of her favorite books by one of her favorite authors. She asked me to read that book. Well, I welcomed, and I read it. I was shocked. You know why? Because that author would claim that he is the holder of the torch of knowledge, and the people are just cattle. I was shocked because he thinks in this way. He is using all the verses from the Holy Quran, and he is suggesting that I have tens and hundreds of books, and I assume that I'm going to be a very good preacher of the people, because the people are cattle. That causes so much. Now, whenever I find any writer, whether a surgeon, author, a poet, whoever, who uses the term wrong deliberately, I will start having my own doubts. Now, you are using the word wrong at the beginning of the research. This must make a kind of springboard to the following steps that you should follow. Now, if this introduction is not making a firm springboard for the following steps that are going to follow in your research, well, your progress might not be firm, might not be steady. Why? Because you are starting the thesis with assuming that all those writings that dealt with this issue are wrong. And I'm going to give you my own writing. Well, this is the suggestion that you are giving to the reader.
Sorry, Professor, I think I didn't say all everything. Al-Faqih provided insightful findings. Al-Faqih provided insightful findings, a lot of insightful issues. He dealt with a lot of insightful issues. But when you consider فاستجبنا دعاءهم as an instance of ellipsis, فاستجبنا دعاءهم is a proposition. It's left to the reader and listener to recover. It's not that we should understand what we mean by ellipsis. Ellipsis is something left unsaid and can be recovered from the preceding context. But if we think about فاستجبنا دعاءهم, this is left because it is understood, and let me call it in this course analysis implicit confirmation that should be recovered by the reader. It is not recovered from the preceding text.
So I suggest that instead of using the word wrong, you perhaps use this needs further investigation. This needs re-envisioning, further readings, but not wrong. Well, you know, you can imagine another research in the future would come and say, Ahmad al-Bakrī is wrong. Okay? You don't want this to happen.
Professor, established practice in translation, which has been espoused by prominent scholars who have contributed to substance and value to the advancement of both translation theory and translating practice. We call for the term inadequate rather than wrong. Inadequate. That this particular rendering of a text, this particular rendering of a text from your perspective seems to be rather inadequate. You play it safe instead of making sweeping, because they have used the term value statements. Now that's one thing. Second, using the term wrong is stigmatizing. And in translation, let it be known to all that translation is an unfinished job. And that everything in translation is negotiable. In as long as you could present a compelling argument to support your choices, your argument should be deemed admissible in translation rather than wrong or right. Thank you so much.
This becomes really very serious, especially when it comes to holy verses. As if you are telling the reader, you can't argue with me, I'm dealing with the Holy Quran. So we need to be very careful whenever we decide to use this word or that word. So as I told you, you will find the word wrong on page 12 and also page 13. Let's go to page 13. 13, please, page 13. You are providing here some Arabic statements. I think they need to be translated because, as you suggested in the introduction, this work is intended to be given to teachers of English. Well, maybe those teachers of English are native speakers of English who cannot read Arabic. Therefore, an English translation is needed for those teachers of English who cannot read Arabic. Page 14, again you are given lots of very strong statements. The second paragraph, unlike the above mentioned, have you found that? Yes. Starting with unlike the above mentioned. Second paragraph. You have the first paragraph starting with unlike al-shurafa, the following paragraph starting with, can you please read the first two lines?
Unlike al-shurafa, al-qawmi divided visual devices in Arabic into two categories,
Yes.
semantic and grammatical.
Okay. Now, my comment is on that statement. It says a very insightful, very strong statement. Why do you decide that it is very insightful? Our readings are limited. Even the greatest scholars, they have limited knowledge. The more we read, the more we discover that we need to learn more. So when you come to use such very strong statements, you seem to be quite assumptive. Okay? Maybe it's because very is a kind of synonym to truly. No more argument. I'm telling you this. We can't argue. So we need to be more careful in the way we use expressions. Don't make them too strong. Not giving a chance for the reader to think, to meditate.
Let me reflect on this. Using adjective and intensifiers is an option. Inviting speech to literature is an option. It is being used at a different scale. Instead of the technical or formal scale, you have opted for a scale that is more in nature. In that particular scale, we expect text presentation to either be highly positive, negative, or neutral, depending on, and that is likely to be taken back in context and the presuppositions of the writer. But that's the value of discourse strategies.
So when it comes to investigation, you have to be careful. Okay, page 17. 17, yes, 17. The data upon which this study is based consists of a variety of authentic texts. Now, authentic, in terms of what?
Authentic means written by professional writers.
Professional?
Yeah, written by professional writers. I mean, authentic, we didn't write them to give just an example. If I say, we use this to refer to something that's close to us, like, this is my computer. This is a made-up text, not an authentic text. That's what I mean.
Not only that, just professional writers, but also native speakers.
Page 18. The second line at the top, again, you use the word original. Does it have the same meaning of authentic? Original and authentic, they are the same in this context?
No, original text and their translation. Original text, that is an Arabic text, for example. An Arabic text and its English translation. That's what I mean. Original text.
In synonymic distribution with source.
Now, the paragraph starting with as can be concluded from the previous sections that we reach the end of that sentence.
talk about it as a project, in protocolized, there is written text.
Yeah, I understand this part. But again, is it a product of culture, product of attitude, product of vision, product of what? Because any kind of analysis must take the meaning into consideration. You're not dealing with abstract words. Those words that have meaning. They belong to a kind of society, belong to a kind of vision, belong to all kinds of attachments in the real world.
Can I comment on this? In the scope processing in translation, we frequently talk about process and process. Process signifies the totality of mental operations which are likely to take place in the matter of the translator. The manifestation of all these mental operations can only be drawn out of problem. And I believe that in this particular context, you have used interchangeably those two terminologies, process and problem.
Okay, let's go to page 50, please. The last paragraph. The last paragraph starting with
The same page?
50, page 50, the last paragraph. Page 50. Abdulrahman actually given the dates of birth and death. It is important because you're talking about the long heritage and presidency of the Arabic grammarians concerning such cohesive devices. So it is important, I believe, to include here the dates of birth and death. I mean, the birth and death of those Arab grammarians. It is important. Again, the same thing happens in column 8. Osama ibn Muntar, you're not including any kind of the same thing happens in column 8.
You know that
Pardon?
they don't have
Don't have that?
data computation. We are talking about the year of publication.
No. Birth and death. This is important. Birth and death. Because we're talking about the presidency of the Arab grammarians in this field. So it is important for the reader to know when did they live, in which century. So all those classical Arab grammarians were not included in the date of birth.
I think I mentioned something like this. In the footnote that when I go about.
They must be revisited. Okay, page 68. Page 68. You are giving us here your own deduction of the previous argument that you presented in the previous page. Well, this deduction which might not be fair. So a rich heritage of Arabic grammar. So what can you tell us about this kind of deduction?
Well,
The paragraph is such with, as must have been noticed from the above brief review. This kind of summary, I call it this kind of deduction. This kind of conclusion. This is your own point of view concerning the work of the classical Arab grammarians. So could you give us this kind of deduction or conclusion in just one statement? What do you think? What do you think of the work of the classical Arab grammarians when they discuss the cohesive devices? Do you think it is a very rich heritage, or maybe there's nothing compared to the English heritage in this field? What is your opinion?
I believe that they are leaders, leading leaders in this conservancy. So I've heard that some studies said we don't have, or traditional grammarians didn't talk about issues related to this consonances. But they did. And that's what I'm pointing out here.
Did that kind of investigation help you in your analysis when you came to contrast between cohesive devices in English?
Actually, no, because I think we find they are similar, or what modern linguists did in English.
that I want to bring with your organization, private universities and the student colleges, the fact that Arab learners would be quite reluctant to use the term traditional, have contributed significant substance and value to enhance the development of language studies and linguistic studies. Even not Chomsky admitted of the insightfulness and valuable contribution made by Virginia to the growth and development of his transformation-directed grammar and transformation-directed syntax. We just have to look into our legacy in order to be able to appreciate the value made by our linguistic scholars in the advancement of language theories and linguistic studies.
That's why I asked how do you benefit from that very rich heritage, the classical grammatics. Page 69, you are given, have you found that? 69, okay. So you're given 24 pages and only one scholar. Why are we doing this? There are other Arab scholars who dealt with such a very important issue. Why are you just focusing on just one scholar and giving him 24 pages? What is the point of it? Yeah.
Because actually he has written 2 books. Two volumes.
Okay,
So he has written, found in that source all the information that I need. That's why I'm just.
So you're suggesting that he's the only scholar?
Not the only.
Well, this is the suggestion without saying it. Given 24 pages.
I mentioned other researchers.
Mention the name is not as talking about the theory itself.
Well, look to الحلوة here.
Yeah, mentioning. You are mentioning. I'm not denying this. But mentioning the name is not as equal as analyzing the work of that scholar that you decided to enhance your.
No, I think your response could have been more adequate had you said that you felt that the contribution made by the faqih would be of more relevance to your research pursuits comparable to other contributions. That's why you have allocated more space to his contribution vis-a-vis other scholars.
Okay. Now let's go to page 138. This is taking a long time because you decided to give us a huge thesis, so we have to go through. Well, you have to pay for it. Okay. Page 138. Yeah, the part that talks about repetition. Found it? 138. 138. 138. Okay. Now, you are given here a detailed account of categorization and all the issues that you are discussing here. Well, I find this as a kind of prolongation. Prolongation, magnification, redundancy. Well, we know that brevity is the soul of wit. You are an intelligent researcher. I'm quite sure about this fact. So, why do you have to repeat again and again the same fact? This will not help the reader. Actually, on the contrary, it will have a very negative impact. Prolonging information. We don't need to do that.
Can I step in here? Ahmed, repetition is not a discourse feature to be celebrated unless it confirms ideology and point of view. That's clear.
Okay, page 156. The last three lines on page 156. I want you to read the sentence at the end of this. How can you explain this part as supporting your argument?
Pardon?
Yeah. Relate the sentence to your main objective, to the main content of this research. How? Explain this part. Can you explain that you have just said? Explain this part.
I'm saying this because partners and parties refer to the same person, same people. So the relationship between them is stronger than between partnership and partners. I mean, from the point of view of cohesiveness.
Please make the distance between you and the microphone because
Cohesiveness.
it's a lot of echo.
I mean, in terms of cohesiveness, the relationship between partnership and partners is this, so that the relationship between the parties and the partners.
Page 163. Chapter 5 is the analysis of data. Now this part I consider as the core of your work. Now I answer the question of why I changed my mind. This thesis doesn't need to widen, it needs just one. Because this is the most important part of your research. Very interesting analysis. And I really congratulate you for this part. I criticized the previous part because of prolongation, redundancy, many unnecessary parts. Now this part is really very impressive. This is the part that I really appreciate your efforts.
The hero of the crowd.
So it's from page 163 to 224. This makes 61 pages of impressive analysis. Page 166. You see the paragraphs what has its evidence from the two tables? Counted? Okay. Count 1, 2, 3. The sentence starting with this could be due to the fact that, etc. Now, you're suggesting here that Arabic uses adjective relationship more frequently than English. Why, in your opinion? This is your job. This is your investigation. This is your field of study. Can you answer why?
Because of the frequency or high frequency of the use of the connected word.
It's the only reason why one is more apparent than the English. Is there any problem?
Let me step in here. Ahmed, there is consensus among scholars with interest both in English as well as in Arabic. Foremost here comes from Kaplan that I made reference to earlier and in subsequent chapters. That whereas English in particular tends to be viewed as analytic in nature, scholars with keen interest and Orientalists in particular tend to view Arabic as being discursive, comparable to English. It is because of this, primarily, that native speakers of English tend to show preference for coordinating devices vis-a-vis subordinating devices, which is of very high level of frequency in English. That response would have satisfied Professor Wallace.
That was why I suggested at the beginning of my evaluation that perhaps some books of literature, classical writings might explain why. Why does this happen in Arabic? Because we have very rich heritage, very rich tradition. And the use of one explains a lot. You can't explain it with only sophisticated scientific analysis. It has to do with tradition. Why? That's more different. Very rich. Page 168. Again, you are giving the readers very important findings. But again, the reader would always wonder, why is this happening? You're not giving answers. Maybe you can give answers in your future researches. You decided here in this research to give quantitative and qualitative, but not giving answers. Whenever you talk about previous studies, well, you have to show the reader that you are talking about this study or that study, because in such very ambiguous statements, it's not happening.
Well, you need to establish the anaphora. I'm using the terminology that we have used because these are extremely powerful linguistic devices.
178, page 178. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines from the top. The sentence starting with cursory glance and the particular and tendency and you're not given here page numbers. Page numbers aren't vital. It's a practical issue to help the reader find out the point that you are referring to here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Fifth line from the top. Sentence, yeah, from the top. Sentence starting with the cursory. Read that sentence, please. Yeah. And why can't you mention the page numbers? So that we can easily judge it in this list of them. You're not doing that. This is not. No. The last line of this same paragraph, the sentence starting with conversely, English prefers to accept relationships implicit. But then you start with the following paragraph. Well, these have become very repeated statements, part of that prolongation. You don't need to repeat the statements that you did in the previous chapters. You assume that the readers are not smart enough to understand your argument. Well, perhaps you are just asking the reader in an indirect way not to finish reading your work. This is not fair because you have done a very great job here. You have done great efforts. So why do you have to give this kind of negative? Why repeat it again? The last paragraph. Such a difference in connected usage between the causal, connected, star, and because. Read that, please. Read that one. 183. Yeah, 183. Last paragraph. Could you please read the first part of this paragraph?
Such a difference in connected usage between the causal, connected, star, and because is very likely to be one of potential factors contributing to coherence, non-similarity, or obscurity in providers.
Yeah, go on.
Words, given the fact that all the uses start to connect textual is standing in causality, all the students are prone to apply this or the specific reason feature to be found.
Yeah, so if you mention a kind of evidence of this kind of missing bit, you have to put it here. Give us examples.
Let me step in here. The use of, in other words, phrase signifies the fact that the intention of writer here, the text producer you, is not to contribute to information, but rather to reciprocate on giving information. So there is no reading here, there is only elaboration on established theme.
190. 190. Oh. The last two lines. Again, the same idea that is repeated again and again. I need to. You have already understood your argument.
Professor Father, if you may allow me to step in. Understanding that the propriety of the reader, not necessarily the writer, and the most ability that is from our perspective, depending on, of course, you're not just addressing the advisor committee members, perhaps you're also addressing a diverse set of leadership. And so, a particular piece of position made by a particular reader may not necessarily be equally valid in regard to other separate readers.
Of course, not all readers have the same level of intelligence. Not all of them are as smart as you are, okay? So here, I don't know, we need to make our researchers interesting enough to the readers, to keep them reading all the time. Because you have something quite interesting to invite the reader. Again, I'm not going to give you the same kind of page 195, I suggest, no, not suggestion, I have comments here. The paragraph starting with competent readers, of course, have recourse to their intuition to work out the real reference of it. Using intuition. Well, using intuition is just undermining your argument. If they are going to depend on intuition, what's the use of this?
No, here I'm saying that they could use it,
Good.
but that doesn't mean that they are going to, the text is going to be efficient. Though the readers can build on their intuitions.
In which cases? Then it's not clear.
When
Once you say that they can depend on intuition, it means that, well,
they can realize that,
unnecessary.
They can realize that the pronoun refers to a particular item in the preceding context. But it's written, the text is not well written still. Although the readers can identify the reference of it.
Do you think that this can happen in all occasions, in all situations?
All times. But in this case.
Now, reading is an interactive process. And one of the aspects that are the most physical factors which are likely to affect that interactive process, including the insightfulness intuition of the reader. Because here you're going to bring to bear on the text the purely background knowledge of the reader. On this fish, you're going to simply match text with context in order to be able to claim the potential meanings and piece of discourse. So intuition cannot be excluded from any creative reading of any given piece of discourse.
Also, if you continue reading, I said, yet, this doesn't minimize the seriousness of the misuse of the pronoun.
Especially when it comes to language. I'm not dealing here with a person reading just one language, okay, analyzing one language. You're dealing here with two languages. So talking about intuition perhaps is not true. Page 197. Have you depended on theories of translation? Because your main concern, or part of the concerns and objectives of this thesis is to deal with problems in translating one text from one language to another. So would you use such theories of translation as to add to your argument? No?
I've learned a lot with regard to theories of translation. Being a former student of mine.
Yeah, there's nothing to 199. Again, those textbooks. Whenever you mention any kind of textbook, do you want that textbooks we are talking about? One.
This was told you now.
Lot of things we said. Page 201. 201. Reticular, you're using the reticular as a measurement for analyzing this kind of cohesive devices between in both languages, English and Arabic. Give me another name for reticular. We know that this term is taken from biology.
Reticular?
Yeah.
Network.
Yeah, it is a network. I wanted to hear this. It's very interesting to talk about it as a kind of network. And if we can describe this kind of network, it would be very good.
In order to allow for better diffusion of information that is incorporated in the piece of research You have obligation also to use terminologies of very high level of frequency. That is crucial to be communicative and of productive impact.
To online, here we have an Arabic version. Okay, kind of interview maybe. Does the question كيف تقيم blah blah blah? The answer is هذه. My question is 209. هذه. Okay. Something that we can use إنها instead of هذه. Just imagine, rephrase the statement by using إنها. كيف تقيم النظرة الأمريكية على الإسلامي وتحديدا الحركة الإسلامية؟ إنها إحدى أهل هذا الزمان. So what's the difference between using إنها and هذه from your own context?
إنها is just criticizing the point. Using هذه it refers to something mentioned before.
Who says that?
Well, I'm going to say إنها if I'm talking or I'm writing without responding to someone else. Yes, هذه is used because he's answering a question. He's referring to something said by the interviewer. The interviewer is asking about this view, and that's why he said هذه.
What is the main theme of the question?
Don't be understanding. View. You mean the question?
Yeah, theme. النظرة الأمريكية. So the question about three consonants.
This is a scholar. The scholar. I'm not the one.
Of course we're not. What your job here is to evaluate your
I'm pointing to the
quotations. You're not putting any kind of quotations.
I'm pointing to the fact that هذه is used to refer to someone else's belief, someone else's proposition.
Part of your thesis is qualitative. To find out the quality of this kind of translation and that kind of translation.
You mean I should have said, you should have used?
We decided to make it qualitative.
No, أحمد. إن في اللغة حرف توكيد منصب. So the fact that someone opted for إنها would be verb pronoun, which is gender sensitive. Well, that adds an emphatic tone, which is a semantic component, which may not necessarily be reflected in ترجمة هذه. So the particular point of view that is being reinforced with that particular option of إنها vis-a-vis the other option هذه. And so here that would, any attempt at looking at such fine semantic differences would call for a commitment on part of the text producer, the translator, or the text producer to be able to engage in style in confidential analysis in order to account for all the sense components explicitly marked or implicitly suggested by the text producer. But that what would be deemed necessary to ensuring that you have accounted for the requirement of accuracy in translation.
210, the last paragraph. Okay, the third one. Speakers of English would use that rather than this. What is your source for this piece of information? 210. The last paragraph. The third line of that last paragraph. The sentence which says speakers of English would use that rather than this. What is your source?
My source is my knowledge that if I'm referring to someone else's proposition or belief, I would have used that.
You're not a native speaker of English.
Yeah, but we learn.
You can't be a source of knowledge.
If you say, if you ask me, people say so and so. Can I say this is wrong? No. I'd say that is wrong.
Yeah, because you learn from books.
Oh, yeah.
Show us.
Of course.
Don't say this piece of information.
Let me step in here.
That's why I'm saying native speakers.
Ahmed,
I said native speakers. speakers of English would have said.
Ahmed.
I'm not saying that this is what I say.
Ahmed.
I'm saying native speakers.
Let me clarify on this. First of all, nativity is not a licensed proficiency in foreign language learning. We are teaching native speakers in English, and I'm supervising more than 10 students in the United Kingdom. So nativity is not a license to proficiency in foreign language learning. That's one thing. Again, this and that is reflective of time and spatial type of relationship. And that does not necessarily require from any one of us to be a native speaker of English in order to find the very fine semantic distinctions between this and that.
Documentation engine is point 1. 214. 214. Paragraph starting with table 5 to 13 shows that.
Not that 513.
Yeah. 513. Now you are giving us here a number of terms. Okay. Could you read that for please? Yeah, read the first 3 lines.
Table 513 shows that lexical cohesion in English relies much more on form repetition than on the other subcategories of repetition, as well as that of synonymy, hyponymy, antonymy, and so on.
Yeah, so do you think that this kind of argument has to do with the rhetoric of each language? Rhetoric. Yeah, the rhetoric of each language. Not only the rhetoric. Kind of discourse. Because this is a comparative study. Whenever we decide to argue an issue, okay, we cannot deal with them just as abstract words and abstract statements. This kind of tradition and culture we have and that motivate this language to have this kind of term more than this language frequency. In this language and not in that language, this kind of frequency can be explained through the rhetoric and stylistics and the tradition of this language. Okay? So I wonder, what do you think of this kind of investigation? We have to refer to the heritage and the culture of the language that we are investigating. Do you think that this will help your argument?
English uses those repetitions because to defend the argument that they said that English doesn't use repetition to establish a region in text.
It's the issue of repetition. We have it in our culture.
No, you can't say that doesn't use it. But you could argue that there is no excessive use. And so the adjectival qualifier here is of paramount significance. You need to watch your statements.
2 to 1, you have some typing mistakes, I'm not going to show. Page 231. 231. 231. The qualitative analysis of the selected samples. Everyone have found that? Yeah, it shows significant differences between Arabic and English in terms of usage of certain cohesive devices. Do refresh everybody. Then the following paragraph says it should be reiterated. Well, again, this is part of unnecessary. My last observation has to do with geography, the work sciences. 341. 341. You're listing here a number of Arabic sources, but this is not the style sheet that we know concerning listing the references. You should start with the last name, comma, first name. You know this. This is a PhD, not an M.A. Ahmed al-Khusi. You should say al-Khusi, comma.
Well, the knowledge about that,
All of them.
they are different.
Pardon?
They are, in Arabic, some starts with the name of the book, some start with the name of the author.
Where does this happen? In the
I don't know, I just selected one, this literary is one of which I think is a good book, so I just followed that.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
intellectual curiosity, not just with regard to the PhD candidate, but also with regard to the wider committee members. Thank you for your insightfulness, for your comment, and for your observations, and I'm absolutely certain that Ahmed will take seriously into consideration these comments in order that to further improve the quality of the good work that has already been produced for this wider committee. I want now to turn the floor to Professor Hassan from the University of Florida. I want you to try to address issues perhaps which might have not been adequately addressed by either Professor Abdulrahman or the head of this commission.
Good morning, everybody. I would like to congratulate Mr. Representative for reaching so far and extend my congratulations to Abdulrahman, the supervisor, and Dr. Muhammad, the supervisor, for such a great work. I really appreciate to Ravi and these two binders and more immense work, and it was very clear, very exclusive, very comprehensive. I really find it very valuable and helpful, particularly to focus on areas that are usually overlooked by teachers of reading, writing, and translation alike. That is the cohesion and the cohesive of text. We usually teach them number of vocabularies, rules of grammars, how to write sentences, but seldom teachers focus on how to connect these sentences inside a text. That is right. And so she did a great job by covering so many areas here, so I'm not going to repeat them. But at the beginning, let me get it straight from you. Is this work addressed equally, both or all, reading, writing, and translation, or there is a difference between these three areas? Just right from the beginning so that I can go on the right direction.
For language teachers.
Yeah, I know. But language teachers read reading and writing, in this case, white translation. Right? Yeah. You're talking about language teaching, right? So do you mean reading and writing? Or do you mean reading and writing and translation?
No, reading, both the main focus is on writing and reading. Translation can be part of it.
Yeah, I want to know the value or the place of translation in this.
All it is for how to teach writing to students. This main purpose is to provide some findings that can help us to teach our students how to write and to read.
What about translation? Because you repeated this.
If they can't read well or write well, help them to translate well.
I don't know, because I find them two different, completely different areas, teaching reading and writing and translation. Anyway, because certain points have been...
Can I explain?
Yes.
Now, translation entails, by nature and definition, command over all the skills that are essential for reading and writing. You will never be able to claim a status in translation unless you stand tall. You start processing in the form of listening, you start processing in the form of speech, you start processing in the form of reading, and you start processing in the form of writing. So that goes without saying, axiomatic. And by simply responding in such a way, I'm going to respond to the question raised by sir. Your thesis, in fact, addresses all these issues from that perspective. And therefore, whatever you have produced is likely to be of greater relevance to students of translation and to scholars in translation.
Very nice sentence. In this case, read on the clarification of Mr. Abdulrahman, then do you think there is a different orientation in applying teaching these devices by teachers of reading and writing on one side and teachers of translation on the other side? There are differences in their respective technologies, strategies, things like this, or it's the same strategy? Of teaching these devices and these concepts by teachers of reading and writing on one side and teachers of translation on the other side.
Yes, they should be taught.
Should be we taught, but in a different way, in the same way, with different strategies, why we're working with
Well,
them.
it depends on, of course, it's not going to be the same when we translate or when we teach writing. It's not going to be the same thing like when we teach reading or when we teach
So what is that difference? I want this wants to be clarified. What's the difference?
The difference is that in reading we are receivers, in writing we are producers. So we are going to help ask our students how to interpret a particular device as a reader. But as writers, or in the writing process, we are going to teach them how to write, how to use that sentence, or that word, that basic device, to connect the sentences, textual elements.
You didn't answer my question because I didn't want to differentiate between reading and writing, rather between reading and writing on one side and translation on the other. Anyway, page 5, please. Ask about narrative. 40G first. Yeah, اللغة الإنجليزية تختلف. Could you please continue reading? Yeah. G, last one. Page 5.
اللغة الإنجليزية تختلف خلال الترجمة وتركيبها ضمن البحث النصي.
ضمن يعني that is typographical. Yeah. Because reading is not okay. Page 9. Second line after the verses of Quran. The second line. Yes, these two verses. Yeah. Within the same verse to be more precise, the prepositional phrase Allah. Allah is not a prepositional phrase.
Prepositional phrase لله.
This is lillah, which is in the original ilallah. Lillah. So this is lam. That's right. Thank you very much. That was a good clarification. Okay, page.
Definitive case.
Yes. Page 14. Well, you mentioned or referred to quickly, and maybe these are very big headings. It would be much better and clearer if there are certain examples added here, because there was the difference between subject, right? So would it be more appreciated if more examples or examples are available here for more clarification?
Now, with regard to repetition, Ahmed, I definitely encourage you to read more detailed parts to deliver incredibly beautiful scholarly research. These focus primarily on textual ability.
Page 46. In fact, this remark, I'm going to say it now, I'm not going to repeat it, but it does. Repeated many times through the thesis. Ibn. Well, as far as I know, we use Ibn when the reference is stated on the same page, not on the previous pages. So here we need either to repeat, right, the whole reference again, with any information about it. And sometimes you are repeating it with a new page number, and sometimes with the same page number. So I don't know what is your strategy.
Do we have the source is on the new page?
Well, as far as I know, we use usually edit when the source is referred to on the same page.
What I know is that we use if you refer to a source that the last source which has been mentioned, whatever it is.
No problem.
The last
Last source.
Yes, the last source.
70%.
No, sometimes the last source with the same page number or to repeat the page number, and sometimes you don't repeat the page number, so you just need to be consistent here.
I repeat the page number here.
No, not here. I said that this edit, I'm not going to go through this another any time, but you need to reconsider all your edits through the thesis and search for kind of consistency. Okay, either the page number is mentioned, there is no need for to repeat the page number.
I clarified the qualities. I'm using the page number, there is quotation. If there is no quotation,
No, sometimes you repeat the same page number. Okay? Okay. Page 55. In fact, you use a lot of Arabic lexicons, codes. Okay. And you translated some of them and you wrote the others. So what is your strategy? What is your rationale behind translating some of these Arabic codes and not translating others? This one, for example, on page 55 is not translated.
I didn't translate.
No, you translate the meaning, you explain it. You explain the meaning of them. But this one is not. Why?
It's explained.
Where is it?
Oh, you mean I didn't comment on the...
So you didn't exactly. This one is not.
Well, this is related to your central research topic. The ability to produce discourses which are cohesive. Cohesive means organically united. And you will never be able to claim such features unless you use appropriate cohesive devices which are likely to help you produce a text that is thematically continuous and sustainable.
Now, I'm not going to ask you about the rationale of selecting your text because you have talked about them very well and thoroughly also clarify some of these points. No, it's not the general observation of my selecting the text, the 10 texts you used. But page 92 and 93, talking about the word classifications of cohesive devices. Yes, and 93. Well, you disagree with the semantic repetition category by Tehua, right? Repetition of sense relations and repetition of content. And instead, he proposes another semantic repetition categorization on page 93, that is synonyms or new synonyms, antonyms, hyponyms, etc. So would you please clarify this point more?
Yeah, because I said that these are common terms. Synonyms, antonyms. She's used the repetition of content. Okay? Repetition of content means, I think, what do we mean by content? I mean, we are talking about cohesive devices. So obvious, specific. You say repetition of content, it can be anything. Repetition of a paragraph, a whole paragraph, you can say, what is the repetition of the contents of the paragraph? So that's why I'm suggesting that we should use synonyms, antonyms, rather than...
But you didn't change only concept. You didn't only change the repetition of content. You changed all classification.
Yeah, vowel pattern. Well, I think when he said he's talking about vowel patterns are root consonants. In my point of view, they are not cohesive devices. They are aesthetic devices rather than cohesive devices. Here it said vowel pattern. And she said root consonants. I excluded them because in my point of view, they are aesthetic devices rather than cohesive devices.
You mean aesthetic?
Yes.
That's related to language function. It's primarily connected to poetic and literary discourses.
Yes.
You take this after that, 97. One comment, the example, etc. Example 4.1. Could you please clarify this paragraph? That is your comment on these two examples.
Yes. Here, this is an example of the unit of analysis used by I think Williams. He said بينما حضر علي الحقيقة قام الزراء بترتيب النقطة. He is talking about that sometimes we can use this as a unit of analysis, sometimes as 2 units of analysis. And he said it depends on the discourse before it. If the discourse before it makes clear that بينما حضر علي الحقيقة is something stated before, it is not a unit of analysis.
It is not something that took place before. بينما is a progressive device that is why. The comparable to it is why. Why is a discourse marker that is likely to mark subordination in English. The subordination is relevant to that. There are 2 events. One of them is likely to take place before the other. And so in order to simply signify that qualitative difference in time, we have opted for subordination rather than coordination. And the comparable to that in Arabic is بينما.
So now you clarified something, Dr. Abdulrahman, the whole thing you clarified. What's the last word?
You want me to say what?
Explain this, what is meant by this is a new clause or not a new clause?
Well, this is what William said, not me. William's example, when he analyzed and split this into units of analysis, he said that if it is a thematic clause, then it is a unit of analysis. If it is a thematic clause, it is a unit of analysis. If not, then it is not a unit of analysis. I don't know what he means actually by saying we should use it or consider it as and clause should be considered part of
Sorry,
the.
but how can you say what does it mean by this? You use it.
Yeah, but I mean, when he said that we can consider it as a unit of analysis, why you consider it a unit of analysis if it is not mentioned before?
And by the way,
And if it is mentioned before, it is not a unit of analysis. It's a unit, it's still, whether mentioned or not, it contributes to mention.
also your work with this, what do you think? Leave William aside. What do you think?
Think about what?
About this regarding this or not, the new clause, or a clause? In Arabic.
In Arabic? You mean بينما حضر?
Yes, بينما حضر علي.
بينما حضر علي الحقيقة, this is a clause.
Clause.
Yes.
You consider it a clause.
Yeah, consider the unit of analysis. Unit of analysis. قامت سرى بترتيب المطبخ another unit of analysis.
In English, it's subordinate clause, which is
Yes.
likely to other.
Yeah.
It can be viewed as an adverbial qualifier or an adverbial qualifier giving you additional information on the main clause.
Something related to this, you stated somewhere that the Arabic is more difficult stating the boundaries of sentence, right? You said this even in your introductory. Now, does that apply even to Quran language?
Yes.
Can you explain?
I mean, from the point of view of orthographical terms, when we talk about punctuation, in Quran also or other texts, we don't have punctuation marks to indicate that this is the beginning of a sentence and this is the end of it.
You mean in English we have the capital letter and the
Yes.
also
Yeah.
exclamation mark?
Now we can easily identify the beginning and end of a sentence in English. But in Arabic,
But even punctuation marks are semantically relevant. So they do communicate meaning.
What about the ellipsis in Quran? You said that Arabic employs underused ellipsis, right? But why don't you first take an
the
example?
ellipsis is excluded from my.
It's excluded, but you said something about it. You made a statement about it. You said that Arabic, let's use the ellipsis than English. You said such a thing.
I did?
Yes. Even in your introduction now, you said it is excluded because of this.
No, I said it is excluded because it is more spoken discourse rather than written discourse.
Does that mean you don't find it in written forms of Arabic?
What we do
Did you find it?
here, I'm focusing on written discourse. Ellipses, substitutions are very common or more common in spoken
More
discourse.
common, maybe. More common, but they
More
are
common, of
really-
course. I didn't say clarify.
Yeah.
But they are more common, and since the spoken discourse is excluded, I didn't take
First
it into account.
frequency in writing is a spoken format. So it's a question of frequency, rather than exclusion or absence.
I didn't say they are not free.
Well, I had 3 more points, but fortunately you clarified them. The difference between English and Arabic in terms of word number, because you clarified this through your example and that you carry this in my book, so I think you don't need to say anything more about this. It is since you have this clarified now. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Hassan. This issue, I would like to add substance and value to Ahmed's research pursuits. I'm in full agreement that the topic that you have opted to investigate is likely to have far-reaching implications for the teaching of English to native speakers. Lord, I believe that some of the information that you have opted to share with us should be taken seriously by curriculum development, so we could see to it that research pursuits of this nature will positively impact our course offerings and syllabi in English in order to equip the students with the necessary skills that are deemed essential for discourse processing in the form of reading, discourse processing in the form of speech, discourse processing in the form of writing, without which no competency will ever be ascertained in any foreign language. I think that issues pertaining to cohesion and coherence are of great relevance to all forms of discourse processing, whether in the form of reading, writing, or speech delivery. And of paramount significance to this also is text analysis, because without having the necessary skills that will make it possible for you to investigate the information which could be embedded in any given piece of discourse, most probability you will fail to understand the text, and as you fail to understand, you will fail to communicate. With this, we would like to conclude this session. I believe that Ahmed, you have given a good account of yourself and of your work, and collectively here, we are extremely proud of the quality of your work and of your ability also to maintain grace under pressure, particularly while Professor Rawia is giving you the rundown. Thank you so much.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. أرجو الحضور بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قرار لجنة المناقشة والحكم رقم 131 لسنة 2016 أنه في يوم الأربعاء 18/8/1437 الموافق 25/5/2016 اجتمعت لجنة المناقشة والحكم على رسالة الدكتوراه المقدمة من الطالب احمد محمد صالح الباكري المسجل بكلية الآداب والعلوم الإنسانية قسم اللغة الإنجليزية، والمشكل بقرار مجلس الدراسات العليا والبحث العلمي في محضر اجتماعه بتاريخ 30/4/2016 بتشكيل لجنة المناقشة والحكم من الأساس. الأستاذ الدكتور عبدالرحمن المشرف الرئيس جامعة صنعاء رئيسا، الدكتورة جاسم الممتحن الخارجي جامعة بديدة أولا، دكتورة راوية علي الخميني الممتحن داخل جامعة صنعاء عضوا عن رسالته الموسومة التماسك النصي في اللغة الإنجليزية والعربية دراسة مقارنة للأدوات اللغوية والنحوية. قام الطالب بعرض موضوع رسالته على لجنة الحكم والمناقشة، وتمت مناقشة الطالب، وبناء على ما تقدم فإن اللجنة توصي بمنح الطالب احمد محمد صالح الباكري درجة الدكتوراه في اللغة الإنجليزية. بتقدير امتياز.